Welcome to the Simply Be Found Huddle with Dean and Robin. Today we have our guest, Shahar. Did I say that correctly?
You did.
Awesome. Well, can you tell everybody kind of your background, what you bring, and then we'll just kind of have a conversation after that and see where we kind of go with it.
Cool.
Great.
Well, I'm a very curious person, so I love to understand why humans behave the way they do. And many years ago, about 30 some years ago, I started uh, educating myself on consumer behavior because, as entrepreneurs, we tend to be very involved with the day to day tasks and things that we have to do, but we forget that we need to understand who we are selling to in a very deep level. So that's how I started, and I've been doing that for over 30 years, consulting usually on consumer behavior and how to adapt to changes like we are having now with AI.
So Shahar, were you classically educated, like in psychology or something like that, or is it just a deep rooted interest that you have in the behavior? Because we all study it, to a point in
Uh-huh.
business, like what's going to make somebody like what I'm doing. So are you kind of just very interested in that? Is that how that got started?
I have a degree in e-commerce. So,
Okay.
if you're selling online, you you need to understand the consumer even deeper than if you're selling face to face. There are lots of things that you cannot see, you cannot assess. But I did study psychology for 4 years. I'm not a psychologist, but I did study psychology. But it's really mainly, despite the degree, what moves people. Because if
Agreed.
we don't understand that, it just gets either harder, well, it gets harder and more expensive for you to put your business out there.
Right, because Rob's very much a data person. He's all into the data, and he watches trends with it, and he understands psychology in a data mindset.
Mhm.
Where I'm a little more like, what made them think that way? But Rob, would you agree with that? Uh,
I'd agree. I'd agree with that. Mine comes more from a data and a sales aspect. Is where I'd kind of word that, Dean. I mean, a lot of times when you're writing copy, you can write a beautiful blog, you can write a beautiful, all this great detailed conversation, but writing a sales page, it converts. That's a little bit of a different game because you use a total different type of technology, and you're not using grammar the right way, and you're not using the formal trainings that you've ever learned inside of a college area for it. And I think that's why I'm good at it because I'm not classical trained.
Yeah, and data is extremely important, right? Because it helps us on the track. How do we do this? And you know very well, sometimes one word in a sales page will make all the difference, right? The thing is, when things pivot, for example, we are living in a very complicated moment right now, right? Uh, well, then what is going to be the behavior at this moment? Maybe we don't have that analyzed before, right? But we still need to make the right decisions to keep the business going. And that happened with COVID, for example. There was no data of how would people behave if they had to be locked down for months. So then, how do you keep your business going during these hard times? You do have to understand basic consumer principles and how they usually behave in situations like this, or you have to be guessing a little bit, but guessing and testing, then you have the data.
Well, that's very true inside of there, and I think COVID made a lot of changes to how businesses operate. It brought AI to the picture. It brought voice search to the picture. It changed the way people behave and how they're searching, what browsers they use, what search engines they use. There's all kinds of stuff that changed to there. What changes have you seen inside of there, Shahar?
With COVID is very interesting because, like you said, it changed a lot of things, and we need to understand that once behavior changes, it does not go back. And unfortunately, many businesses kept waiting to see if things would go back to normal. Well, that normal does not exist anymore, even after the lockdown, right? Because again, we have changed it, and our expectations, desires have changed as well. So we got a lot. You asked about the main changes. We really got comfortable being at home, right? And from that moment on, we started carrying that home many times with AI to be exactly what we want. So we clap, the lights go on, we talk to somebody in our room, they buy stuff for us. So we start even, and many times, I would say at the beginning, most of the time, not even being aware that AI was involved into that. But then we catered that house for us. Now, one thing that continued after COVID, and now it's quite prominent, is that we start isolating ourselves more and more. We got comfortable online. We got comfortable, looking for information online and things like that. So the social aspect created a bigger gap, right? Harvard did a study recently that it says that 1 in every 5 Americans feel extremely lonely. Think about this. And 1 in every 3 Americans think they have a real friend. And this is
Wow.
not going to get easier because now we have AI friends. Meta is putting on Instagram and on Facebook AI friends. They are going to talk to me all the things I want to hear, which is a very complicated dynamic, right?
That's
Because
actually going to, from a psychology standpoint, that's really going to jack some people up.
oh yeah, we have that side too that we could talk, but just on basic stuff, we think about this. I already block people that don't agree with me, right? I educate my feed to feed me what I want to see. So everything is about me. Therefore, hyper personalization is very important in business right now. But at the same time, if everything is catering to please me, I don't have any training on having difficult conversations. What if we voted to different people here? So are we able to carry a conversation about that, or is all going to be black and white, right or wrong, right? So we're losing the capacity of not only uh, being able to do difficult conversations, but we are also our emotions in that are getting less resistant when things don't go our way, and therefore you see people having tantrums because they didn't sit in the right airplane seat. It's part of that, and it looks like it's going to get a little worse than that because of the AI friends now.
Well,
So
I've talked to a couple. Oh, sorry,
okay.
Dean.
Oh,
Go
I was
for
going
it.
to say you were kind of talking about the polarization because it's about me, right? Is that
Yes.
kind of the same terms? So how do, as a small business, how do I affect? I mean, how do I get people in your mind? How do you get people to say, "Oh, I like this business"? When you may polarize yourself because you're going to say, "I don't like you because of your whatever." Who knows what the reason is? How does a small business overcome that in your opinion?
That's a fantastic question because it's interesting. As a business, I need to be as raw as possible, and I need to let people know what am I about, what do I care about, what do I want to preserve, what do I want to resist against. So I need to say that, and yes, that is going to cause friction, but I'm going to attract the right people to me. See, so it's the opposite, right?
Right.
While the consumer wants everything about me, catered to me, and agreeing with me, they are going to be attracted to businesses that are very clear and raw about what they do. Can be as simple as if you have a restaurant, show where you buy, show how you prepare the food, right? Tell them it's about something. The other thing, Dean, is that we need to understand who we are selling to because we have 5 generations alive right now, consuming right now, but we are very different in behavior, right? The younger I get, the more socially conscious I need to be. The Z generation and now the Alpha, what they care about, they are going to buy from you not because you advertise a lot on a platform, but because you are about something that they care about. They have a harder time being loyal than a baby boomer, for example. We were
Okay.
trained to be loyal to brands.
Right.
So I need to understand first, who am I going to sell to? I need to narrow that down because as business owners, we want to sell to everybody, right? But that's not what happens on the day to day. And then I need to craft my message accordingly. Right. But many times it's against I'm going to please everyone because that's not going to work.
So
Right.
that really taps majorly into AEO or answer engine optimization. That also taps into the voice search piece of how you're going to be able to handle your blog, how you're going to handle everything. So when we're talking about all that, I don't know if you've watched any of our huddles or anything, but and I'm not even sure if these huddles are even out yet. But we have the whole entire concept, Shahar, that comes from the tree concept. So we have your listings engine, which is going to be all of your networks that you're listed on, all the places you're going to for your business name, phone number, address to be able to get your NAP score up. Then you have your tree trunk, which is your website. And then you have branches on your tree. So that might be social media. Then you have your smaller branches off of that. That's like your Facebook, your X, your LinkedIn, whatever it might be. Your next branch might be your Velpac ads. It might be your pay-per-click ads, your email campaigns, your blog, all this stuff that goes out. So when we're talking about bringing that whole entire tree concept together, we also say one of the best ways you can do it is either you go to your AI assistant and you start talking about the problem you have and have it write content from your voice inside of there, or you can take it to the next level, which I recommend more than the AI assistant piece, and start it off inside of a video. Record the video. Doesn't matter if it's raw. Doesn't matter if it's edited. Just record a video about a problem you solved. Like you talking about going to, talking about your suppliers, how you made the food inside of a restaurant. It's about the problems you solve and how you get there, what makes you unique. Because I think people inside of the human race right now, we're looking for real and not everything that's fake out there. And yes, you can utilize AI to bring that in, but when it's inside of your own tone, you're going to get a better result out of that. Do you agree?
Totally, 100%. And yes, when you are in that trunk and you see all the branches that you have, that can be extremely overwhelming. And you can say, okay, I'm going to be burned out in 2 weeks if I do all this, right? But then you need to understand, well, I have AI and I can automate a lot of these things. So I don't have to be doing myself.
Correct.
But I also I love the idea of, okay, I'm going to my preferred AI, be GPT or Claude, whatever you use. I like Claude. And I will brainstorm a lot because usually we entrepreneurs, we don't have people around us that understands how our mind works. It's not usually the partner, the wife or the husband, right? They don't get it because they are used to a very structured kind of life, which we are the opposite. So it's very difficult to bounce an idea with other people. The AI is perfect for that. And the more you use, the more it's going to get used to how you think and the answers will be better. But then you automate and use AI as much as possible. AI is not complicated or expensive because you have new tools coming out every day to do that. And then you do. But yes, at the end, you need to know the tone that you're talking and who you're talking to, and understand that in some of those branches, there'll be different ways of having the same conversation. Because,
Right.
of course, people that use X now, it's very different than the people that use Blue Sky. TikTok is very difficult than the people that use Facebook. You have different profiles. So you will need to cater that conversation for those branches, maybe in a different way.
Well, and X their whole entire piece just made a huge change for how they're migrating the data across there as well. I
Oh, yeah.
think your user base stayed almost the same as Twitter, but when Elon Musk took that over, it kind of changed the dynamic there,
Uh-huh.
which is kind of interesting when you think about it. And then Grok, I don't know if you've used Grok AI at all.
I am aware, but I don't use it.
Okay, so Grok AI actually goes to Twitter first as it's to be able to migrate the data from. So when you're looking at those connections, it's so important to have that piece for that reason, because these are places that AI is getting the information from. ChatGPT uses social media, Gemini uses social media, Claude's database is really super interesting when you look at it from a data standpoint. It pulls from multiple sources and it utilizes AI or APIs from GPT and a couple of other language barriers for how it puts it in. So the whole Claude team, from how I understand it, they started working at ChatGPT, didn't like the direction it was going, and left.
Wow.
Elon Musk was part of that at the very beginning too, and left the OpenAI team. So you have two different teams that branched off of that. You have Elon's Grok, and then you have Claude that came out of ChatGPT, which I find very fascinating across.
Wow, that is fascinating. What I know is I think Claude is better for marketing.
I love Claude for marketing. My only problem with Claude is I was hit. So I did a bunch of stuff inside of Claude over the weekend. I was working on different pieces, and I was pulling so much data for building out an entire site for a contractor. And I was kind of just trying some new stuff. I kept hitting data limits like crazy.
Yeah, that is.
I never had that problem before, but now it's like,
Yeah. My wish,
I'm just in my zone working with you. Now you're going to tell me you can't do it. What?
my wish would be that it had the memory would work a little better when you're using even the cross projects. It would help a lot. But you see, you spend there because you're more analytical and you like the data. I go there because I want to brainstorm with someone that understands what I'm talking about, right? And it's amazing what we get that we didn't get that 6 months ago.
No.
Right. So the pace that is evolving is unbelievable. Now, when I'm talking about behavior and consumer, I need to understand that most people, you can talk about these machines the whole day. I know that, right? Just by talking to you for 5 minutes. Uh, I talk to entrepreneurs every single day. They come to me, oh, you know that thing, Chat GPT, is that GPT? I got that. I even paid for that, but I have never used it. It's unbelievable the amount of people that are still not comfortable using AI. And they need to understand, as business owners, if they're, as a consumer, it's a different ballgame. But as business owners, if you don't start trying and adopting, you will be left behind.
You will.
Because the amount of information I have access in 5 seconds, no matter which tool I'm using, it's unbelievable today. And I can get a leg from you if you're still thinking, oh no, this is not going to work. I don't like AI. You say, yeah, but do you watch Netflix? Do you like the recommendations? My friend, you are using AI. You're just not aware of that.
Well, I mean, AI's been around for a really long time, but we just inside of the world of marketing, marketers love to screw everything up and they overuse everything, and they love to make things really super complicated. Mm-hmm. And if something works, we're going to jack it up to where it doesn't work anymore. Because we're going to overuse that, and else it doesn't work. Yeah. And my prime example of that is Black Friday. We ruined it.
Yeah, it's not what it used to be. That's for sure.
No. I mean, now it starts Black Friday and Halloween. I mean,
yeah.
But it's one of those things to where AI is being used now more in business. And if you're not adapting to AI, you're going to be left behind. Because consumers are using AI because they want to have a conversation with something. So you brought up the whole friend aspect. People want to have that conversation. Have you used ChatGPT as voice yet?
Yeah, I call him. Well, I'm originally from Brazil,
right?
So it's Portuguese. And when you say chat, if I say chatinho, it means boring. So that's the name of mine, Chatinho. Did you do this today? And I'm using now on the beginning of the day to give me the major news in my environment for my businesses. Also, I mean, you have to adopt. You do.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And things aren't static. So if we went back a year ago, 2 years ago, and we'll go back to the beginning of Simply Be Found, 5 years ago, everything was static. It wasn't as static as it was like going all the way back to when I started doing this stuff in 95. I mean, we were really static back then. We've kind of grown, but it was still static information. It was one way. Yeah. Now it's a two-way street with AI. People are communicating. What kind of reviews did they have? What would be the best for my house? What would be the best for my situation? Yeah. Who tops this? And if you're not sharing the data on your website, so if you're not filling up your root ball, having it inside of the website and also having it inside your blog, your social, and all your branches are all coming together, you're going to be left behind.
Yeah, and you're going to burn out because there's not enough time in the day for you to do all these things by yourself. And the entrepreneurs, they have this kind of behavior. They want to do everything because they want to understand we are problem solvers by nature. So we like those challenges, but it becomes not profitable for us. Now, while you were talking about that, there was something that occurred to me about the behavior. And let me see if I don't forget, because being a baby boomer, I do that a lot. Whew, go on.
You probably don't do as much as that guy right there. I mean, I give him a crap about it all day.
I was like this. I have something to say. And it's gone. But it will come back. Let's move on.
Hey, I have the same problem. Trust me, I'll be talking to Rob. I'm going, Okay, now we're in my hands. So anyway, go ahead.
He was so good. I was excited, but I didn't want to interrupt him.
And now the two of you have shared the same exact piece to where it's I'm off on a tangent. You come up with the middle of my tangent. Dean's like your tangents are too damn long.
Here's the problem. Shahar and I are from the baby boomer era. Yeah. We don't interrupt when you're in a thought process. I'm going to have to start being more like you. I'm going to say, stop. But anyway, Shahar.
That's the interesting part, because baby boomers are big consumers, right? Yeah. Again, we were educated. We did watch the TV commercials, right? And the funny thing is, we become invisible as we age, but the businesses need to understand we are big consumers. And yes, we have our ways. After all, Robert, all I had when I was growing up was a telephone hooked to the wall. That was technology. Right?
Very long, right?
Everybody could go to the living room, watch the news while they were talking. So imagine this as a generation, because we have people alive from the great generation as well. We were not exposed to this, but it's still the age that opens the biggest amount of business a year is 70.
Right.
Look at this. We are opening businesses at 70, but if I go by a personal website, they ask for my age. I don't know why, because I don't know how purses can be related to age, but it goes up to 55. And I'm pretty sure I'm still here. Right? So, I mean, that frustrates the consumer that is willing to spend. Let's face it, we baby boomers, we either made it or not. So we either have the money to buy or not, or we know how to get more credit cards. The younger generation lives a very, very different situation. And then you ignore me. And I remember what I was going to say. When we talk about consumer behavior, we think we know, right? Oh, people don't like to talk to machines. Well, there's a study showing that 83% of Americans today actually prefer to talk to a voice AI as long as it goes right into the point they want. We are very tired, and I know I am, of small talk. You know, for me, there's nothing worse than going to a restaurant, asking for the table, and then, so how's your day going? Are you celebrating anything? I hate that. You know,
they don't give a shit,
right? Exactly. It's as automated.
It's autopilot.
So we prefer talking to an AI if it's going to take us to the right point that we want to. Now, you may have experienced a voice AI 7-8 months ago. It's way different than what it is now. It is amazing what is becoming. We test that all day long with different businesses for our business. And the other day we say, okay, AI has no empathy. So how would it work if it was talking to somebody that is calling a funeral home? Because that's a very tricky, sensitive situation. I have no empathy here. How is it going to go? And it was jaw-dropping. What was able to accomplish. So,
Shahar, one of your companies is an AI voice company, correct?
It's an AI agency, yes.
Okay. So we had, I can't remember the name of it now. It's by Curious Things. I can't remember what they call her. We used her for a while, and she was able to schedule us an appointment. I could never get her to do really well for being able to do anything other than scheduling an appointment. Okay. And what Dean and I found is we don't take appointments anymore. Anybody can hop on one of these huddles, and we'll go through, we'll talk about your business, we'll do all that, but we don't have enough time in the day. And training somebody would cost money. Sales teams cost money. We'd have to increase prices. And we also wouldn't have the control that we have to be able to get all the information we do, which allows us to pivot and do what we do. So what can your AI do inside of that agency to be able to help a small business, say they're a contractor out there, to be able to help them be able to scale their business? Because we're all getting phone calls. For one, we're getting spam calls like crazy about voice search and all the different stuff. If you have an AI agent on, you're not going to have to take those calls anymore. Mm-hmm. So tell me about your company, what you do for that.
If you have, for example, the phone today, you can say that from 10 phone calls that you may get, 8 will be spam, right? Which trains us not to answer. But the fact is that if you have a ticket item that you usually sell that is $1,000 and you miss one sale every single day, how much is that going to be at the end of the year,
Right.
right? Now, in theory, AI can do everything, including sales, and it can. I don't use for that. I leave the sales to me because, again, at that moment, I understand the consumer, right? And I can make decisions. And I think that's one thing we need to train ourselves. The final decision needs to be yours, not the machine. But on the other hand, AI can do a lot of the selection for you, right? Because many people may call your restaurant, for example, just to know if you're open,
Yeah.
right? So simple
Right.
things, or book an appointment. It can do it very, very well. So our AI can do all that, and on the website, for example, or on the phone, depending on the conversation how it's going, it can give you a discount, it can give you a coupon, or if it's something more serious, it will transfer. So it needs my decision. It will transfer at the end, right? But there are many AIs already doing sales. It all depends on the ticket item that you're selling and the questions that you usually get. As a business owner, you always have at least 10 questions that you answer every single day, no matter what. I was joking with my daughter because we have a production company that does online courses, and our ninth anniversary was yesterday. So we were celebrating, and
Congrats.
we got a transcript from the chat that the lady was asking, but what gauge is that wire? Funny enough, we have answered that question thousands of times because it's craft, so they want to know the gauge of the wire. Thousands of times over 9 years. Right now, we don't anymore. The AI takes care of that. So you always have those things that they are important to your consumer, but it takes time from you, and we don't have enough time. Plus, as a business owner, I should have enough time to be able to strategize my growth and not be dealing with these things, because then at the end you cause frustration to all sides. I use the example of my hairdresser, that when I go, I'm the kind of person that I need to get my hair cut and get out of there because my day is always full. Well, she's there cutting my hair, we are talking, we are usually discussing because we have different political views, and then the phone rings, right? The phone rings, she gets frustrated, stops doing what she's doing, which frustrates me because I want to get out of there. And then she talks to the person. Usually she needs to rush that. She frustrates that person as well. Maybe the person just
Yep.
wants to schedule an appointment. The AI could do that. Maybe it was about the time that is open. The AI could do that. So instead of frustrating three people in less than a minute, why not let AI take care of that and do what you do best? That is your craft, right? And keep the consumers, because retaining consumers is way important.
So here's a question I have. So our entire environment right now is doing everything by email and chat support for Simply Be Found. And I think that people love to be able to chat with somebody. Some people are terrified to make that phone call. So you're hitting one of your age brackets when you do that, because you get those younger generations, that's what they want. Someone in an older generation, I'll pick on both of you. Hi, there you are. Um, but it's one of those things to where you like to have a phone call. Does it satisfy the older generation to have that phone call with the AI? And could you, if they need to be able to have more help, be like, hey, come onto the website, chat with us about this, because we handle all the chat. We don't do phone calls, but we'll chat with you over here. Would that be something the generation would pick off, or what would be your opinion on that?
I think there are two branches here, right? To use your analogy. And I'm the worst person for you to ask that, because I hate to talk on the phone. I avoid. I bring to anybody here but me to answer the phone. I don't like to talk on the phone. But with the production company, for example, my average age of a consumer is 55 and older. Those are the ones that buy and buy and buy and buy. And the AI has been doing a very good job. Of course, we need to keep an eye and adjust. The other day, a friend of mine that works with AI, he called just to check our AI and he found a flaw. But the AI offered, oh, it's free until the end of the year. The problem is we're running a promotion in December. And we didn't change that. Our fault. So you need to be adjusting things accordingly all the time. It's not that you're going to put the AI there, never use about that. So that's one thing. Now, each generation prefers different methods. We need to be everywhere. We need to be omnipresent. Whatever is the medium that you have or the media that you have, you should be on, right? So phone, text, email. A lot of people say, nobody reads emails. I say, yeah, I can
They
still
read
pay.
emails a lot.
We can buy a new boat anytime we want, right? With emails. So yeah, you can you that's your perception, it's not the data, right? So we need to be everywhere, communicate as they want. We use, for example, as a company, to avoid answering messages in social media platforms. Because again, it takes more time of an employee. Now we have everything centralized. Whatever the message comes to the phone right away, and we know where it came from, can answer from there, and period. But before, it was costing us money. How can we manage 6, 7 different social media platforms every single day, all the time? And by data that the right approach is to answer a question 5 minutes tops after it was sent.
Right.
The average business owner that gets anything on Google or whatever, they take 72 hours to answer that. So that consumer is long gone by the time they have the time to do it. So why not put AI right there? For restaurants, for contractors, for home services, reviews are so important. But do they have a mechanism to get those? No, they sometimes remember to ask for a review to somebody, right? AI could be taking care of that. Automation in itself could be taking care of that.
Now
So,
we did a whole thing. We did a whole thing on that. And I'm curious on your opinion.
okay,
Do you think AI should respond to the reviews as well?
after it's well trained, it can. But
It would have to be really well trained because letting
yes,
it go rogue, I think, is really dangerous, and I don't think we're there yet.
I think you have to have triggers. And anytime you see a review, let's say a bad review about a restaurant, if I had one, I would come there and answer. Right, when we have things that we have to pay attention, either my daughter or me, we go there and we do it, right? Because
Right.
again, for me, the whole system, you asked about my company, it was actually created to automate every single component of follow-up. Because in my perspective, a client that I can keep over the years is way more valuable than a new one, right? It costs me less. It has the loyalty that I need. Will become blind for competitors. So I need to have that relationship being deeper and deeper. Now, of course, we always could put autoresponders there and send messages every so often. But the thing is that today we require a deeper conversation with them, right? And I need to be in front of them or be top of mind all the time. Now, everybody used to say it takes so many touches for people to pay attention. Well, now it's taking 18 touches for them to perceive you exist. So if you look, it's not only Dean and I, we are all becoming invisible.
That's about right.
So 18, because when I was younger, it was 6 to 10 touches would get you a sale,
Exactly.
but brand recognition was different then than it is
Yeah.
now.
But
now
people used
pay
so I
attention.
mean, if we go back to the 90s when people were buying back then, and I go back to the furniture stores when I was, for the family stores, people were loyal back then too. So once you touched them that many times, they stayed with you.
Exactly.
And there's a whole episode on King of the Hill about that and how, Hank goes and buys all this stuff from the same person because he has a guy for that. Finds out he was getting ripped off for it. And inside of the episode, and that's why the generations, even the older generations that are out there, it really kind of changed that perspective because people started taking advantage of that move.
Mhm.
It's kind of like marketers. Marketers will ruin anything. I talk about that all the time. But people started seeing that, and it changed the buying behaviors out there.
Yeah. And today with the younger generation, they tend not to be loyal unless you have a cause or something that they really resonate with. But at the same time, they do expect that behavior, that you would know their name, you would know what they like, you would know what to offer to them. That Dan and I, we used to have that in a normal business situation. So how do we do that? And again, I love food. I don't know if you know, all my examples are about food.
Well, I love food.
But I can
That's why I look the way I do.
I can go to a restaurant and they do track what I ate last time, and the AI could suggest me, hey, you had the steak with garlic. I know you love garlic. Why don't you try the garlic lasagna today? You can have things going because it's tracking every single thing that you do. But you know what's the day-to-day experience? My daughter and I go out for lunch almost every day because really that's the time we have to meet and talk about business. Well, I go to a specific one because I am in Puerto Rico right now. They don't tend to be very fast, right? So there is this restaurant that serves the food, gives me free refills, and I'm happy going there every single day. We've been going there for the last 6 months since we arrived. Not even once somebody asked me, what's my name? What's my WhatsApp? Do I have a phone number? Do I have an email? Now, are they an exception? No, because when I was in Utah, it was the same almost everywhere. They don't gather any data about the loyal consumers.
Yeah,
and if
I
they
agree.
man, you don't know my network. You don't know how many people I can refer to this place. So you're looking at two gals talking, and you're okay, they come here for lunch, and that's it. And you keep thinking, how can we be in the 1800s with our marketing? Right?
Well, I mean, so Dean started as a client of mine before we started Simply Be Found together with one of my marketing agencies. So that's just kind of part of our story. I was telling him with his other business, which still operates today, you got to start collecting everybody's emails. You need to have data points on all this so you can do email blasts. Do you think he's done that to this day?
I don't have a problem doing it. I can't get my production staff to do it. so then
it's quite common.
Yeah, I mean, I know that things need to happen with the business, and we do some of it. We don't do enough of it. And I think that's with a lot of small businesses. They may get started, but they don't get a good habit going, and or they just don't realize the importance of the value in it. And I agree with you that those data points are so important. And Rob and I, we've talked about it, and I agree with Rob too. But trying to get your staff sometimes to collect it, because you're not always the person that's talking to them as the business owner.
But
there's a lot of staff out there that want to fight AI right now because they're terrified it's going to replace them.
Yeah. And unfortunately, a big majority will be replaced because there is no need for them. And we're talking, for example, telemarketing, a lot of things, right? But Dean, as a business owner, this happens a lot. You don't know how many times with a client I say, you need to implement this. 2 days later, oh, I talked to the team and they didn't like it. Well, first of all, as a business owner, you have to be nice until you're not. You have to have control over your business. So it's not optional. I'm sorry. They don't know where that idea came from. For example, how many businesses have buy the services of consultants and coaches and things like that, right? So that came through a conversation, hopefully very extensive one, that led to an idea that we analyzed the data and saw this should be implemented. It's not up to the guy that is saying, hey, hello, are you celebrating anything today? I'm sorry, right? And what they need to, you can resist AI as much as you want, but it's already happening. The moment consumers starting adopting, buying smart glasses, buying smart watches, and start incorporating that into their daily life, baby, now there is no option, no going back here.
Right.
We're going to be more monitored. We are going to buy more stuff, right? I was all like, okay, there's this company in Europe that is coming with the first humanoid robot ready to sell. We're going to get one. But then I went to Netflix and watched a series called Cassandra. So I told no robots inside the house.
So I adapt, I build AI, I do all that different stuff. I do all that inside of my day-to-day. I love it. And my wife is like, you're never bringing a robot. I will take it outside and I will run that damn thing over with the car 3-4 times. I'm not having it in the house. And you can automate all you want for you and your little tiny world, but you're not bringing it into my house. I'm like, but it'd be kind of cool. I mean, it could follow me around. I could talk to it. I could have it do the things I don't want to do because, there's always laundry to do. Doesn't matter how many people live in a house. There's always laundry. There's always dishes.
The cleaning part.
Yeah, I don't want to clean
That
bathrooms.
way. Yeah, but on the other side, how people are interacting on the day-to-day to AI. So I go and I use GPT and Claude a lot, right? I think one is better for some things, the other is better for others. So
Agreed.
I use it all the day. But I think they get lazy sometimes. And I don't think twice about you're getting lazy, you're not doing right, I'm not going to talk to you anymore, things like that. I have friends that they say, no, I always say thank you and I am pleased because you never know tomorrow what they can do to you. So
So I like
nice.
when AIs first came out, I said you get more out of the AI if you're nice to it. If you say, please, thank you, can you please do this? Hey, that was great.
Yeah.
Because I really think it's trained inside of there. But I took
Okay.
that to the next step. I wrote a program. I may release it out, but I have it set up. And this is what Claude was getting me upset over the weekend about because it wouldn't work right. And I kept getting
Starts
all this stuff.
repeating stuff. Yeah.
So what I ended up doing, so a few months ago, I started this project and it's nowhere near ready to be ready to roll out. But I can now take a command and it'll go out to Chat GPT, it'll go to Claude, it'll go to Grok, and it goes to about 5 or 6 others.
Uh-huh.
And then I have it programmed to where they start to argue and fact check against each other.
Oh, I like that.
So I'll put a request out there. So like when we're doing a business profile review, when someone's doing it for Simply Be Found, I'll put it sometimes into there and say, okay, I want you to argue this data because I don't think it's necessarily where I want it to be. I'll see where it comes back. They'll sometimes have a conversation for 4 or 5 hours.
Uh-huh. I can see, I mean, just listening to what you're saying, I could say this would be fantastic for me as a business owner
It would be.
because if I'm interacting with the AI and they are, fighting amongst themselves to find the right approach, I'm in a safe space. That's exactly where I need to test stuff, right?
Yep.
So I have this idea, let's say cookie cutters. Will this theme of a cookie cutter work? What do you think? What do you think? And let's see how we could improve sales here and let them do the whole thing. Because when I'm ready, okay, final decision, I'll make it and I'll go. I have everything that I needed in a safe space. I didn't have to test outside, fail outside, have extra expenses for testing. And you know very well that testing is crucial in business. So, tell me when you have it.
I think what makes it so powerful is it knows my knowledge base. So
Yeah.
every single huddle, every single video I've ever done, every single blog, everybody I follow, the books I like, all the way going back to, How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie, which I'm assuming you've read that.
1970 something.
I mean, I did the
As a baby boomer, I would love to have a library of myself. Like,
yeah, I would love it.
so many times I was watching the film that won the best Oscar, that is a Brazilian movie, and at the end of the movie the guy talks about the book where it's based, the story, and at that scene I realized I read that book but I didn't have the memory anymore. So I would like to be able to revisit myself sometimes, but I cannot promise I'll be nice to them because I was born without patience. So
I have no patience. I can go 0 to 100. I don't do it as much. I don't do it as much as I used to, but I can. What I find I do it the most is when I have all the outside sources and I'm stressed and I've got multiple things going on at once, then it still comes out. But I mean, back in my younger days, I'd go 0 to 100 in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I still do that.
That's my job, is to keep him from going to 200 because he's not a good crash dummy when he hits the wall. So
I mean, but
told me this today. We were shooting a small reel, right? And I was and she said, "It's amazing. It's 1 second and you change." And I said, "That's me. No patience."
No patience. Let's not. I got in my head. My brain's going faster than I can talk.
Yeah, exactly.
And like I know the answer, I know what to do there. I know how to solve it, and it's a lot faster for me just to do it. Let me get in here and just do it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I came from it. So when I came from a generation piece, so when we talk about different generations, like we did earlier, and I come from a different piece because I went to school up until about half of the 5th grade. Then I got pulled out to homeschool. And I was brought into the furniture store then to work inside the store, and everybody was 10, 15 years older than me.
Yeah.
So I'm 42, but I relate more with anywhere between 52 and 65 Probably about, I'd say
I'll
65
go
to
to
67,
Oh, come
wherever.
on, you don't relate with me anymore. I'm over that 65 mark.
I guess I'm not adding the difference inside of it. I relate with that older generation
There you go.
more than there. But when I was a kid, I remember the whole entire piece of, come home when the street lights go off. Kids don't have that today.
Yeah.
And I did. I had kids twice. So I have my ex-wife, I have my wife now. So I have the older kids and I have my younger kids, and their generations between the two of them are completely different.
Completely different. But it's interesting because I mean, not we, psychologists should analyze what's really going to happen. Because, for example, it's a very big trend about the Gen Zers as employees because they're not easy as employees. And I myself had bad experience with that. But that doesn't mean, oh, they're not good. It's just that they have a different profile. They behave a different way. For example, that generation hates confrontation, period. They'll do anything not to have a confrontation, and that causes issues inside the workplace. Now, the younger kids, what I am worried about is that the iPad, the tablets are the new babysitter. But if time that has no constraints on their use, what is happening on the day to day? Let's say with the three
Oh,
year
100%.
let's suppose your family has dinner together, right? Everybody on the table. That kid is all the time, 100% of the time on the device, not paying attention to the conversations, to the disagreements. If you thought the food was too salty, how you react to that, your facial expressions, all that is not being seen or learned. So when they go out to society, they tend to have more issues. And you, as your life story told you, the moment you were together with another generation, you not only learned how to understand that generation, you incorporated some behaviors. The elephants have known this for thousands of years. When you have an aging elephant on the, I don't know how to say in English, the group of elephants.
A herd.
What?
A herd.
A herd. So you have the herd, then you have an aging elephant that maybe is being behind all the time and that doesn't follow the group. But then you have a rebel baby or a rebel teenager as an elephant. What the herd does is pair them together and make them walk
Right.
together, right? Because when they do, both of them will improve. And this is the opportunity we have today with AI, because again, it's the first time in history that we have 5 generations alive at the same time, going through such a major change, and all of them still consuming. So, other than say, I don't like this generation because of this or that, start to understand why they behave the way they do. So
Yeah.
yes, sometimes on the work to work day when I had my employee, now we use AI most, so we only have 3, but when I had more, dealing with the Z generation was a challenge. But we started asking why they always behave this way. What's motivating them or demotivating them? What's leading to this? And again, we need to understand they were brought up in a very different way. The experiences you had being out of the house until the lights went off were totally different. You were facing challenges by yourself. And Dean and I don't even ask. We were risking our lives on a day-to-day basis outside the house, and the parents wouldn't miss us, right? So
No.
we
You
were
get your
not
chores done in the morning, you leave, and you show back up for bedtime.
exactly.
They don't know
They
where you're at.
didn't care where you were or
It,
anything.
I
So,
mean, yeah.
but now we over shelter.
Yeah.
And now we are going to see the consequences of that, because we are not asking kids to solve problems as often as we did with other generations. There was a study, a sociological study on why tribes didn't have the teenager years on their kids. They didn't go rebel. They didn't start answering back everything you said. My daughter, to this day, she's 40 now. She still answers back everything. They don't do that. And there's a habit, for example, the tribe decides that that youngster will open the door of the hut. The youngster goes open the door of the hut. It's hard. It's too heavy. He cannot do it. He has to figure a way. Nobody helps. That kid will have to figure how to solve the problem by himself, and he will have to open that door. Nobody will go, oh, my baby, let me open the door for you. So pretty. No, right?
but,
And
but
we are not doing that anymore. So we need to rethink this part.
Yeah.
right. So Shahar, let's be honest though. When we were kids, all because we grew up during the Great Generation, that raised us. They said we're going to destroy the world. I don't know how we're going to survive another 20 years
Uh-huh.
because we weren't. So we have to overcome those ideas because I have a mindset about how problem solving, doing some things in conflict management. I think some of our youth or some of the younger people miss some of the facial cues because they didn't have some of the things that go on, and I get that. But the thing is, their set of problems we got to figure out how to get them over their issues because they're not the same value set as mine. Rob's value set isn't the same as ours, kind of thing because of the way we're raised and circumstances. So that's why it's so important for businesses and business owners to understand the trend. Like you said, it's not just one thing. Like my dad's 87, and
Yeah.
I got him to finally start using his phone. Instead of saying, "Hey Siri," he goes, "Hey Sirius." and so he's starting to use it,
And it answers him.
Yeah, of course.
but I think that but every like you said, we have 5 generations of people that are consumers now. It's huge because, like you said, like where they're at on social, where they're at, how do you communicate to all of them, and each one of them has to be unique. And I think the big point is don't be scared to tell people what you are
Uh-huh.
in business.
Yeah, you're not going to please everybody, and that's totally fine. You don't need to. That's
You can't make everybody in this world happy.
Right.
No, and I cannot be nice to everybody either, and same thing backwards. So whoever you are, the people that will align with you. That's why when I work with clients, I always ask about their consumers. What are their 3 biggest fears and the 3 biggest things that they desire? Because if you know those things, you can craft a conversation that is relevant, right? But if you don't, and what I fear is probably different than you and you, right? So we need to think, okay, as a business owner, I need to understand that to carry the right conversation, because like it or not, Robert, we will have to market our business, right? And then the text, everything, the text, the voice, the everything needs to be point on, that will create relevance. If I'm not relevant, I'm not going to exist
Right.
as a business for a long time.
And if you're not found in the right spots and where your customers are looking, because not everybody's just looking at Google anymore. There's so many touch points that you have to where you hit those 5 generations that you talk about. You have to make sure you're in a broad area and make sure you're doing all those things to be able to bring it up.
Just ask yourself, when was the last time I went to Google to ask a question? Because even when I had to do math now, I go to ChatGPT. Right? I need to do conversions between centimeters and inches all the time. I go there. I don't go browsing around anymore. This is a behavior that disappeared for me, right?
Well, you also have AI now inside of Google. I noticed that happening more and more.
That's the thing. That it doesn't mean I'm not coming back, because the tools are changing so often. But I have to understand that. I mean, I used to go to X if I knew there was a breaking news of anything. It was the best source to go. Now I go to TikTok, right? So you have to understand everything is moving and changing the whole time. And as an entrepreneur, you need to be comfortable with change, because that's the only constant we have.
I agree 100% on that. Now, Shahar, what businesses do you have? And if anybody wants to come find you, where could they find you at?
For your audience, I think the best place is Prop Talkie, is our agency. They can call the phone and experience the AI. Maybe they will find a flaw too, and we're happy to fix that.
Only if I get a free year, okay? Then
right? Come on. Right?
Don't tell us that. We will come find it. We will come find a flaw in it.
If they, on the homepage, proptalkie.com, if they scroll down, they can get my reports for free. I have a report on the 5 ways to become irresistible to a market. It's basically what we were talking here today, the things that you need to do to become relevant. And I have the AI-driven consumer report. So the changes that are happening, and that report will give you services, products, how you should be kind of adopting that into your business. I think that would be the best way. I am a serial entrepreneur, so I always have more than one thing.
I know nothing about that.
Life is boring if you don't have new challenges. So
Exactly, and then spin-offs of each other and all the different stuff. But it's one of those things to where there's a lot there now. So one question I have for you, since you are a serial entrepreneur inside of this, and you've done a lot inside of AI and all that stuff now, what would you tell your younger self if you had to go back and give yourself any advice to be able to get to where you are today?
okay, just for context, I was an extremely shy girl. So, I love to be inside something that wouldn't put me in touch with people. So what I would say to that girl, it's going to be amazing.
Isn't it amazing how we've kind of changed?
I mean, I think I'm so blessed to be here witnessing these changes. I have already witnessed amazing changes. Remember the year we were all going to die because of the computer thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
We've been
I made a lot of money during that.
right?
I was doing computer repair, working for AOL and HP and all those. I had all these contacts. I made a shit ton.
At midnight, just waiting for the doomsday to come. Didn't happen. I had food storage and everything. Well, so I've been through a lot, but it's amazing to see how it is changing. Yes, there is a dark side, but with everything there is a dark side. We need to choose what's best for us, for our community, right? And implement those things. It's not only in business, on the day-to-day life. It makes us healthy. Learning keeps our mind young. So why not go and experiment some AI tools? Maybe difficult at the beginning, maybe frustrating at the beginning. That's fine. Just keep doing it. It's good for you and it's good for the AI because it's learning from you as well.
So for your AI, how do you train that? Do you upload a bunch of documents? Do you have a conversation with it when you're developing out a phone system, or how does that look?
Yes, all of that. But we start doing a deeper assessment with the client to understand. Because, of course, if I get a company that is age AVAC, right? For example, I know nothing about the business. I'm not even able to say the right name. Well, I need to have a conversation to understand what are the main questions that they get. The points of frustrations is really important because I think that's where AI can fill the gap. But I need to understand what they are. And then people might think, but if you don't understand anything of HVAC, how can you train well? That's exactly why we can train well. We are a pair of fresh eyes with no emotion attached to that business. So we can see the points of frustration easier than the business owner himself, right? Once we have that, then we start educating the AI programming and we put that test. And after it goes, we also test because, again, we might have to make changes. AI, like I said, it's not good with empathy. There are businesses that are more sensitive than others. So we need to monitor that more carefully. And it's
Perfect.
not just the voice AI, it's the website and all of them. There, you can have a whole team with AI.
Yes.
So what would you consider that to be an agent?
Yeah,
Or do you just consider it an AI tool inside of the
we
back
call,
end?
we call it for marketing purposes an AI employee because that's what they
Okay.
become. If you look, one AI used the proper way is worth 5 people,
Right. I
right?
agree.
So if I want to scale fast, you're always going to have employees that are decision based, right? But the mundane tasks like answering the phone, the email, for example, who does really customer service on the website? Nobody does. They put a bot that doesn't work and annoys everybody. So all that can be improved. You will see results fast because, again, maybe just one phone call a day will make a whole difference for you at the end of the year, right?
Right.
So that's what we do.
Well, I'll have to check that out. I'm really curious, and now I'm gonna try to break your bot today. So.
Oh, my daughter, she fixed the problem with the end of the year thing. Not good for this time of the year.
It's one of those things to where there's so much change that can happen. I agree that AI is replacing people, like our back end. So if we look at our data team, if you look at my assistants that I have for me, if you look at our web developers, I push everybody to utilize the AIs more than I ever have because they have access to the ones I've trained, the ones I've done, and be able to communicate with those to where then they can get closer to me, because it's more inside of those roles that you're putting in where you're hiring people. You're trying to get someone to come in and be able to be an extension off of you, fill gaps that you have inside of that you're missing inside of yourself, and along with being able to duplicate yourself in the areas that you're really good at, so that way you can move at the same speed and you guys can come together. Now, I like to find staff that'll argue with me, that'll not always be right with me, because the AIs always think I'm right. We talked about that on the side of this huddle as well.
Yeah.
I need that argumentative piece to go back and forth.
Yeah.
I'm not always right. Well, what about this? What about that? That gets me going. And Dean and I do that constantly. But getting staff to do it is a pain in the butt, because they feel like it's not the nature to come in and talk about it with you. But I mean, that is where I think it is to where AIs are able to be basically employees. I have a hard time calling them employees. I have a hard time calling them agents, because they're still not 100% a real thing.
Yeah.
But they're an extension of all the real within your company to be able to be a thing.
Yeah, and we have to stop worrying so much about, oh, yes, people are going, it's a change, right? With any big change in society, there will be things that will disappear and jobs that will be lost. But look at this. The expectations of people will also change, because the more I use AI, the more free time I'm going to have, the more control over time I'm going to have. Therefore, what is important for me will shift. So businesses that cater to experiences, businesses that cater even to the detox of all this, because it's too much information that we get anyway, they can succeed. And there will be people in those businesses to serve the consumer, right? So we will maybe have to reinvent ourselves, but as entrepreneur, I know you have successes and failures over your life, because that's the nature of being an entrepreneur. And whatever comes next, you will figure a way to succeed. And, and that's the attitude everybody needs to have. Maybe your job will go away. So what? Start getting used to AI, start using it, and see how you could transform yourself. There's nothing wrong. We were not born to be one thing at the same time. Did you know that here in Puerto Rico, we have a tree that walks? It is a tree that has lots of roots, and they are all outside. And whenever it senses that the water is going out and they're not getting what they need, it slowly moves to another place.
So a banyan tree?
Is what? I don't know the name.
Banyan tree?
It's a huge tree, by the way.
The name of it, is it a banyan?
I don't know. I have them close to my house. But the thing is that even if trees can move and change and adapt to a new environment, come on, people. We can do that too. No big deal.
Dean and I were talking how trees communicate with each other. That's why they know to share room and do all this stuff.
Yeah, don't get me started on mushrooms.
But you know what though, Shahar, we've been throughout the last 200 years, technology has displaced people. When we first started our first machines, when I started using, I'm an old process engineer, and I started using pick and place robots. I displaced people's jobs, but then those people that were doing those manual tasks, which is what AI is kind of doing, if you were to create an analogy, is you're taking away these tasks that are not challenging to the human being. And these people went on and they go, I want to thank you so much, because I lost that job, but I got a job doing things that intellectually made me a better person. Yeah. And I think that's where we got to be careful not to say that we're displacing people. We're going to allow you to be a better human being, a better employee, because you're going to be more in a cognitive role.
Exactly. Kind of thing. Exactly. And that's what we need. People that help us think, that challenges us. Right.
George Jetson still had to push the button.
I don't even know not even comment on that one, Rob. I can't help what you saw when you were growing up.
George Jetson still had to come in and talk to Rudy and push the button and have a conversation with Rudy. I mean, it's the stuff we were talking about years back.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because those cartoons would have been from generations before me.
Yeah, I wanted to have the robot from Lost in Space. I love it.
But I mean, I think that is everything. That is just where business owners get scared, and they shouldn't be scared. They have to adapt, and if they don't adapt, they're not going to be able to thrive and survive. And I think that's a huge part.
Yeah. Change is the only constant, and we tend to hate change. Change is a word that is not used in marketing, for example, right?
Yeah.
As a negative word, but it is what happens every day. So we just need to, okay, it's going to be okay. We avoid a lot of people having panic attacks and things like that if we just accept the fact that change happens, and it doesn't have to be bad.
I agree 100%. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Is there anything else you want to bring up, or anything you want to be able to send anybody to, or anything?
And that was a long conversation. I really enjoyed this.
Well, it
Awesome.
doesn't take us long to have a conversation, Shahar.
No.
I mean, we'll go everywhere, but I love the interaction. I love the thoughts. I really feel you brought some interesting points for me to contemplate on.
Thank you, thank you. Well, as we just need to keep focus on. I need to understand who I sell to, because we B2B, B2C. I always sell to somebody, and always be open to new
Yep.
information. Right?
I
Try.
think that's
Don't like
everything.
to use, but try it. Yeah.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you.